Yep, everything seems to be up and working as it should be. So just going to carry on with some more of the motion that was filed just over a year ago, October 2019. One thing I did want to point out when I did the video earlier today about the Occam's razor versus the cognitive dissonance, probably the most obvious one of all. We've all watched Making a Murderer. We've all seen what a terrible situation Steve and Brendan found themselves in, thanks to the obvious corruption. Occam's razor says there's something wrong with this. It's as simple as that. You cannot have what's going on in Wisconsin with Steve and Brendan and not look at that and think, what on earth is going on? But of course, the guilters, with their cognitive dissonance, they try and explain it as, oh, you've only watched a documentary. It used to annoy the hell out of the dude. The one thing that really annoyed him was anybody that came back to him, made a comment and said, you're just jumping on the bandwagon. You've just watched a one-sided documentary. You've got this. Don't let Netflix tell you what to think. They're one-sided. What I do find really bizarre is, the Netflix documentary Making a Murderer simply chronicles everything that happened. It presents it in a coherent, logical, chronological order, so everybody can see it. It's not biased at all. But what makes you wonder, what on earth were the journalists doing at the time that they weren't more critical of what was happening? It suggests to me that the press back in Wisconsin, back in certainly 05, 06, 07, when it came to Stephen Avery, they had a laissez-faire attitude that the state could just tell them what the hell they wanted. And the press were just quite happy to go along with that. We get that incredible, if you ever check out Millbilly's channel and the phone call between Stephen Avery and Laura Riccardi. Sorry, that's a great one. But sorry, in particular, the one with Emily Matasic. And she phones up, she's a reporter, and she phones Steve up and seems to think that by simply telling him, you've got all this planted evidence against you, you might as well come clean and just tell me what really happened. And she's incredulous as to the fact that Steve could be innocent, and all this stuff has been planted, and yet it's so glaringly obvious. It's so axiomatic. That's the word I'm looking for. Axiomatic. Anyway, let's carry on with the next bit of the motion. I think it's all set, ready to go. Well, I said that really did used to annoy the dude when anybody suggested that you've just watched a documentary, and you think of the amount of research that people have done on this. And no matter how much research is done, you take somebody like Millbilly, who's covered this case a lot longer than any of us. Everything that he uncovers further proves, Occam's razor. It's simply corruption. And as I say, it's corruption that's in the Godsey book. He asked the question, are these people evil? Well, not necessarily. They just suffer from this cognitive dissonance. Let's yeah, absolutely. The sheriff said the show was one-sided. He'd never watched it. I had several long conversations with Sheriff Herman. Yeah, as I say, it was It was unbelievable. Some of the excuses that he was coming up with. Anyway, let's crack on with what we need to do, because as with last year, as with last month, towards the end of last month, the message came up again about the fact that StreamYard is getting near the limit. Now then, let's see. I think that's all we need. And then if we click on this one here, hopefully, and this one here. So just to reiterate where we are, we're at the Brady violations. So far, we've had the Kevin Ramlow Brady violation, and let's just quickly look back, see what violations we've had so far. There's the Joshua Radant violation. Let's see what else. What else have we got here? I'm going slowly because I don't want to accidentally shoot way past. Let's have a look. Was this? Yes, there we go. Yes, we've had the Brady violation regarding Kevin Ramlow. Then we've had the Joshua Radant. And now if we get, there we go. Page 61. Item D, Brady violation regarding the original Flyover video taken on November the 4th, 2005. Now, on November the 4th, 2005, Wendy Baldwin, who we hear quite a bit of in Making a Murderer, and managed to disgrace herself, has since disgraced herself by, I believe, burning a sheriff's officer's uniform. Why she did that, we don't know. But anyway, she might have been a bit drunk at the time. And we wonder what on earth were Miss Baldwin and Jerry Pargle doing. So on November the 4th, Wendy and Jerry conducted a flyover searching for the RAV4. They were in the air for around 4 hours, yet produced only 3 minutes of flyover footage. What were they doing in that plane? A certain club comes to mind. Now, Sweaty made a material admission when he told the jury that the RAV4 was not visible in the flyover video because he claimed the vehicle was covered with branches. So he's saying that he's seen the video and he wasn't able to see it, not visible in the video because it was covered with branches. However, the edited version did not show the southeast corner of the salvage yard at all, much less a vehicle covered with branches. Therefore, a reasonable inference from this statement to the jury is that Prosecutor Kratz saw the unedited flyover video. If the video was intentionally edited to delete the footage of the southeast corner, this is a Brady violation because the issue of whether the RAV4 was planted was material to Mr. Avery's conviction. An evidentiary hearing is necessary to determine the credibility of the state's claim that only 3 minutes of footage, flyover footage, exists and that there were no deletions of the flyover video. Item E, Brady violation regarding the Zipperer voicemail. Teresa left a voicemail on the Zipperer. I believe that's George. What's the other woman's name? Is it Irene, Zipperer, Ellen, and a slightly older couple, older couple, answering machine. She left a voicemail on the answer machine when she could not find their residence on Halloween 2005. On November the 3rd, when the Zipperers were interviewed at 9:30, they told investigators about Teresa's message on November the 3rd. About Teresa's message. On November the 3rd, 2005, Teresa's voicemail was listened to by Detective Remiker of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department and copied by MTSO Detective Detective Jacobs, onto a CD. The CD was never turned over to trial defense counsel and has allegedly disappeared. On April 20th, 2017, Prosecutor Fallon, prosecutor do so at their peril, confirmed by letter to current post-conviction counsel that neither Calumet nor the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department have been able to locate the CD of Teresa's voicemail. What's important about it, of course, is that the contents of the Zipperer voicemail may have contradicted the timeline established by the state that Teresa's last stop was the Avery salvage yard. Suspiciously, easier for you to say, suspiciously, the state never played the recording of the voicemail for the jury, but they attempted to introduce its contents through Joe Ellen. Did I say Ellen? I can't remember if I did. Joe Ellen Zipperer. That's right, Mrs. Zipperer. Mrs. Zipperer's unimpeached testimony on the contents was that Teresa came to the Zipperer property between 2 and 2:30 p.m. Corroboration of the assertion that the voicemail would have contradicted the state's timeline is found in a recorded conversation between investigator Weigert and Detective Remiker on November the 5th, 2005, about the sequence of Teresa's appointments on October the 31st, 2005. In that conversation, which occurred after interviews with Steve Smith, Stephen Avery, and George Zipperer, they concluded that Teresa's first appointment was with Mr. Smith, her second appointment was with the Averys, and her third appointment was with the Zipperers. It is reasonable to infer that Weigert and Remiker based their conclusion on the Zipperer voicemail left by Teresa, which was listened to by the investigators on November the 3rd, 2005 at the Zipperer residence, recorded to a CD on November the 6th, 2005, and withheld from trial defense counsel. Clearly, the Zipperer CD is material evidence that could have been used to impeach Mrs. Zipperer on the timeline and would have refuted the state's entire theory that Teresa's last stop was at the Avery property. Brady violation regarding Mrs. Heitl. Mrs. Heitl has provided current conviction counsel with an affidavit that states that she had a telephone conversation with Teresa on October the 31st, 2005 at 11:35. Whilst Teresa was driving. Teresa pulled her vehicle over to make notations on her day planner as she engaged in conversation with Miss Heitl. There is no evidence that Miss Halbach returned home after this conversation. According to Miss Heitl's affidavit, she reported this conversation to law enforcement, including the fact that Teresa was driving and pulled over to check her schedule and make notations about the conversation. No report of this conversation was ever turned over to Steve's trial defense counsel, and the state never mentioned her call to Teresa at trial. It is a reasonable inference that Teresa's day planner was in the RAV4 with her at the time of her murder. Teresa's ex-boyfriend, the ever grinning Ryan, grinning with duper's delight, was in possession of the day planner after Teresa's murder, according to one of Teresa's friends. Now, items from the RAV4 have particular relevance since many things were missing that should have been present in the vehicle, such as Teresa's purse, wallet, driver's license, money, schedules, receipts, maps, Toyota master key, house key, and other items related to her activities with Auto Trader or her hustle shops. It is undisputed that items were removed from her vehicle to conceal the crime. Anyone in possession of those items would qualify as a Denny suspect because it would establish a direct link to the crime. If Miss Heitl's report of her telephone conversation with Teresa had been disclosed to trial defense counsel by the state, it could have been used to directly connect Ryan to the crime and firmed up Steve's theory and taken it beyond mere speculation. Now, Brady violation regarding the Dassey-Janda CD. On April the 17th, 2018, current post-conviction counsel received the Detective Veely CD for the first time from prosecutor Fallon. I think he was with the Grand Chute Department, Police Department. The CD contained Detective Veely's forensic examination of what at the time was labelled as Brendan's computer, forensic examination of the Dassey-Janda computer. On May 18th, 2018, current post-conviction counsel filed a motion to supplement the record to the appellate court with the CD. On June 11th, 2018, the appellate court remanded the case back to the circuit court with instructions that, quote, this appeal is remanded forthwith for the circuit court to permit Steve to pursue a supplemental post-conviction motion in connection with Steve's receipt of previously withheld discovery or other new information. The appellate court further ordered that the circuit court, that Angela Sutkiewiecz, shall conduct any necessary proceedings and enter an order containing its findings and conclusions within 60 days after the supplemental post-conviction motion is filed. On September the 6th, 2018, the Circuit Court, Angela, denied Steve's motion to supplemental holding to the motion to supplement, holding that, quote, the defense was in full possession of the same information as the prosecution via the 7 CDs turned over pursuant to discovery. The Circuit Court, Angela, also determined that the CDs were turned over to trial defense counsel 2 months prior to trial. Therefore, the Circuit Court held that Steve had failed to meet his burden of showing the evidence was suppressed. Now, of course, this CD, infamous CD, contained unique information not previously disclosed. Now, the Brady obligation does not cease to exist at the moment of conviction, but continues to apply to the plaintiff's post-trial assertion that he did not receive a fair trial because of the concealment of exculpatory evidence known and in existence at the time of the trial. Thompson versus Chicago, Whitlock versus Brueggemann. The circuit court erred. This is where they got it wrong, where she got it wrong, when she concluded that the CD contained exactly the same information as the 7 DDs, so nothing was suppressed. The CD contained unique information derived from Detective Veely's application of specific Halbach crime scene facts to the raw data in the 7 DVDs. The 7 DVDs did not contain the results of Detective Veely's unique search terms found exclusively on the CD. Those search results are as follows: 2,632 search results for the terms blood, body, bondage, bullet, cement, DNA, fire, gas, gun, handcuff, journal, MySpace, newsrav, stab, throat, and tires. It is undisputed that the results of those unique word searches of Detective Veely were suppressed and withheld from trial defense counsel, prior post-conviction counsel, and current post-conviction counsel until April 17th, 2018. Because there is no possible way prior to April 17th, 2018 that current or prior counsel could have guessed the specific search terms and the results which Detective Veely obtained, Steve was deprived of this material information which could have established a direct link between the specific evidentiary terms related to Teresa's murder and the searches performed on the computer. The CD also contained the state's recovered images relevant and material to Teresa's murder. The CD refined the 14,000 images on the 7 DVDs and recorded 1,625 violent images which had been deleted. The recovered porn depicted violent images of both torture and mutilation of young females, many of whom bore a striking resemblance to Teresa. The 1,600 images of violent porn could have established motive for trial defense counsel's Denny motion. Failure to disclose the CD prior to Denny ruling. The circuit court ignored current post-conviction counsel's argument that trial defense counsel was completely impaired in its ability to effectively identify a motive in its Denny motion filed on January 8th, 2007, before the trial. See Socia versus Richardson, 7th Circuit, 2017. Noting evidence may be considered impermissibly withheld if the prosecution failed to disclose the evidence before it was too late for the defendant to make use of the evidence. The circuit court abused its discretion when it ignored Steve's argument that his Denny motion was compromised by the late disclosure of the state and chose to focus only on the disclosure of the 7 DVDs 2 months before trial. Trial defence counsel, in the form of Jerry, provided an affidavit to current post-conviction counsel explaining the effect of the late disclosure on the success of trial defence counsel's Denny motion regarding establishing the motive of Bobby Dassey. Jerry states, "We established that Bobby had access and opportunity to have committed the crime, but the court ruled no motive was established and therefore denied the Denny motion as to Bobby Dassey and others. If there was anything that was on the CD investigator report from Detective Veely that would have linked Bobby Dassey to the violent porn images found on the Dassey computer, we would have included such information in our Denny motion. Such information could have strengthened Bobby Dassey as a possible suspect who may have sexually assaulted and killed Teresa, and specifically would have provided evidence of a motive." Yeah, let's keep going on about this CD, because this is all really interesting stuff. Misleading nature of the disclosure by prosecutor Kratz. The state admits that the CD was suppressed from May 10th, 2006 until the state disclosed it to current post-conviction counsel on April the 17th, 2018, exactly 4,360 days after it was created by the state's forensic examiner. The circuit court ignores Steve's argument that his trial defense counsel was deliberately misled by Sweaty. In the Prize's December 14th, 2006 letter, he did not disclose the CD, but did disclose the December 7th, 2006 Thomas Fassbender report. The Fassbender report was prepared 218 days after Detective Veely's final investigative report was completed for the state on May 10th, 2006. Dean provided an affidavit and raised additional issues about the state's non-disclosure of the CD. On January 25th, 2007, on the eve of trial, Attorney Strang received a document entitled Stipulation Project from Kratz. In that document, paragraph R stated computer analysis of Steve, Teresa's and Brendan's computer. Mike Veely of the Grand Chute Police Department analysed the hard drives of these three and found nothing of evidentiary value. We may wish to introduce the fact that they looked. This stipulation eliminates Officer Veely as a witness. Mr. Strang's affidavit states in relevant part, I accepted without challenge Sweaty's assertion in a January 25th, 2007 email to me that Veely's analysis of Steve, Teresa's and Brendan's computers yielded nothing much of evidentiary value. With the belated production of the Veely forensic analysis to Mr. Avery's current lawyers in April 2018, it now appears to me from materials that Kathleen Zellner and co-counsel have filed that the Veely forensic analysis in fact did include much of evidentiary value in direct contradiction to Kratz's claim. Given what I now know about the existence and content of the Veely forensic analysis, this looks to me like deceit. My firm and I did not have encase while representing Mr. Avery. I think that Mr. Buting did not either. So we could not review the data on the 7 DVDs given to us. Of course, we never got the Veely CD-ROM at all. The circuit court abused its discretion when it found that trial defence counsel had failed to exercise reasonable due diligence in the following ways: failed to request access to the encase programme from the prosecution and was denied such access, failed to request the missing CD when they had notice of the existence of the Zeely CD via Fassbender's report prior to trial, failed to submit a motion to the court requesting additional time to review the newly discovered evidence. This is the best bit. This is the best bit. The Wisconsin Supreme Court in State versus Weigert has specifically rejected the imposition of a reasonable diligence standard on trial defense counsel. The Wisconsin Supreme Court specifically stated, this court has never analyzed a Brady claim through the lens of reasonable diligence, and we decline to adopt that requirement now due to its lack of grounding in Brady or other United States Supreme Court precedent. Of course, the main thing about the Weigert decision was the fact that the Supreme Court, as it says here, in Banks versus Dritka, the United States Supreme Court specifically instructed a rule thus declaring prosecutor may hide, defendant must seek, is not tenable in a system constitutionally bound to record defendant's due process. The state should not be allowed to impose a reasonable diligence standard on trial defense counsel when the state suppressed the Zeely CD for 12 years. The Weigert court specifically overruled prior Wisconsin cases which have imposed a requirement of exclusive possession and control of the material evidence by the state. The court specifically stated, there is no express support in the United States Supreme Court's Brady jurisprudence for the limitation that only favorable material evidence in the exclusive possession and control of the state must be turned over to satisfy the due process obligations enunciated in Brady. This limitation further thwarts the purpose of the state's obligation under Brady to prevent the state from withholding favorable material evidence that helps shape a trial that bears heavily on the defendant and casts the prosecutor in the role of an architect of a proceeding that does not comport with the standards of justice. We hereby overrule the holding set forth in Nelson and its progeny that favorable material evidence is only suppressed under Brady where the withheld evidence is in the state's exclusive possession and control. Suspiciously, the CD was not accessible to trial defense counsel in the prosecutor files because the CD was kept in the exclusive possession of Special Agent Fassbender. Even if trial defense counsel had searched the prosecutor's file, they would not have discovered the CD. The knowledge of law enforcement officers may be imputed to the prosecutor. The test is whether, by the exercise of due diligence, the prosecutor should have discovered it. Prosecutor Kratz knew that the CD was being kept separately from the other discovery and was in the sole possession of Fassbender. The Weigert court noted, the exclusive possession and control, reasonable diligence, and intolerable burden limitations distort the original Brady analysis and the purpose behind the prosecutorial obligations enunciated in Brady. Weigert at 27. The state, in its response to the motion to supplement, contended that multiple people had access to the computer, but current post-conviction counsel has provided sufficient evidence that it was only Bobby who had access to the computer during the day on weekdays. If the circuit court had conducted an evidentiary hearing, the issue of who had access to the computer during the week from 6:30 till 3:30 in the afternoon could have been definitively established through witness testimony. Current post-conviction counsel has asserted, based on her forensic computer expert Gary Hunt's analysis, that the violent searches primarily occurred on weekdays, days when only Bobby was in the residence. It is undisputed that Steve never accessed the Dassey computer. He did not have a password for the computer, nor did he possess a key to the residence, which was locked when no one was home. Steve also only entered the residence with the permission of a Dassey family member. And Steve worked during the weekdays from 8 till 5. Steve would be eliminated from all but 15 of the 128 searches, 11.7% at issue, simply by having been arrested on November the 9th of 2005. And again, Brendan would be eliminated from all but 26 of the 128 searches at issue by having been arrested on March the 1st, 2006. The Wisconsin Supreme Court in Harris stated, here, the undisclosed information is not directly exculpatory in the sense that DNA evidence might be, because the fact that BMM had alleged being previously sexually assaulted by her grandfather does not in and of itself tend to negate Harris's guilt regarding the separate assault that BMM alleged he committed. However, the evidence here constitutes impeachment information that could have been used to challenge the credibility of witnesses whose credibility would have been determinative of Harris's guilt. Similar to Harris, all of the witnesses in Steve's trial, Bobby's testimony, similar to Harris, of all the witnesses in Steve's trial, Bobby's testimony was the most determinative of Steve's guilt, because the state used it to establish that Teresa never left the property. Clearly, the jury was concerned about Bobby's credibility because he was one of only 2 witnesses whose testimony the jury requested to review during deliberations. Importantly, the CD timeline of internet searches directly contradicts Bobby's trial testimony that on October the 31st, he was asleep from 6:30. Cheers, Crockett. He was asleep from 6:30 to 2:30 p.m. Mr. Hunt determined that the internet on the Dassey-Janda computer was accessed on October the 31st, 2005, when only Bobby was at home at 6:05, 6:28, 6:31, 7 o'clock, 9:33, 10:09, 1:08 p.m., 1:15 p.m. This impeaches Bobby's trial testimony that he was asleep from 6:30 to 2:30. On November 17, 2017, in a recent interview of Bobby by state investigators, Bobby claimed that the computer was located on a desk in the living room at the time. When Bobby was asked if the computer was ever located in his bedroom, he stated it was not. Bobby's statement is directly contradicted by the crime scene footage taken by Sergeant Bill Tyson on November the 12th, 2005, which shows the computer was located in Bobby's bedroom. Bobby's statements are further contradicted by his brother, Blaine, who stated in his affidavit to current post-conviction counsel on June 25th, 2018, that the computer was located in Bobby's room and Bobby was the primary user of it. The suppressed impeachment evidence on the CD is not largely cumulative of impeachment evidence petitioners already had and used at trial, nor is it simply impeachment evidence which only involved minor witnesses. As the Seventh Circus points out, the Brady materiality standard is not an admissibility test. It requires the court to gauge the potential effects on the outcome of the trial if the concealed information had been available to the defendant. Bobby was the primary witness for the state in establishing that Steve and he and not he was the last person to see Teresa alive. Bobby's credibility would have been severely diminished if the jury realized that Bobby was doing the following: searching and reviewing numerous images of young females who bore a striking resemblance to Teresa Halbach being tortured and sexually assaulted. Bobby was also lying to the jury about being asleep when he was doing internet searches. Bobby was searching for key terms relevant to the murder and created folders labeled Teresa Halbach and DNA. Okay, I think we'll leave it there. Let's see, what page are we up to? And I'll make a note of that. Oh. That's not clever. 56. Yep, I think so. 57. 58. So yeah, page, well, it's saying page 58, but it's actually page 74. 74. Okie dokie. Let's just turn that off. Let's do a quick shout out to everybody that's taken the time to come and say hello. Shane, hi. K-Don, Jazz Naz, Don't Recall. Dr. Siltman, I'm glad you're enjoying the book. Dark Side. Linda, Not My Verbiage. Sean, JD. Let's see, Shane, Not My Verbiage. Okay, Mandy, hi Mandy and Sean. Yep, Jazz Naz, JD, Mandy. Yep. K-Don. Mandy. Outside Mandy, outside Verbiage, Mandy. Dr. Siltman. Sean. Mandy, Jazz Naz. Ronald, yes, hi Ronald. Okay, I think, oh, T1, here you go. Needed to be there somewhere. Hopefully we'll get somebody on that you can use a spanner on at some point, or maybe not. Paul, hi Paul, great name. Paul Ward there. I think that'll, yep. Okay. Yep. Thanks for all tuning in. We'll carry on with the next part. I've made a note at page 74. So yeah, hopefully I'll find that easy enough. Maybe tomorrow. Okay. Catch you all again soon. Bye for now.